Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to raise the issue, too, the Chairman did on the libraries, Doctor. And I, first of all, thank you for being here, and thank you for your testimony. And you cited particularly this case in Pennsylvania, which you're most familiar with. Obviously, that's the state in which you reside and work. I might request, Mr. Chairman, maybe ask the American Library Association to respond to the suggestions or allegations that have been raised here about libraries. My experience is that most of them are good institutions who care and obviously promote. One of the struggles they have is to promote reading with children and trying to get more people to use libraries and to participate in them to enhance the educational opportunities. And I had the same reaction the Chairman did. I was thinking as you were talking that knowing that we historically have provided at least some resources from the federal government to support library activities, but I want to be careful before I lurch to all of a sudden say to all libraries across this country that I'm going to cut off your funds unless you take exactly the steps I want to take. I'd like to know how they feel about it and to what extent this problem is pervasive and exactly what the American Library Association's reactions are to some of these things. So I just want to be careful here. We're having a hard enough time getting kids into libraries.
Right. Well, and I think you should...
I don't want to work around and all of a sudden...
You should read their policy statements, and also I should mention that in the different opportunities I've had to testify at the Congress, today is the only case that I have testified in which the American Library Association has not testified on the other side against the position I was taking. They testified against the Child Online Protection Act repeatedly, and every other situation that I've been involved in where we have testified about the damage that happens at libraries, and they have stated their policy that they will not restrict any material
What
by
power
age.
do they have? I mean, my library, I live down the street from my library in East Haddam, Connecticut, and they've got a wonderful children's section there, wonderful program, by the way, wonderful little library in my town. And you know, I presume, knowing the people who run that library
Yes.
in East Haddam, Connecticut, the idea that some national organization would tell them what their policies were going to be, I would dare them to suggest the people who run that library in East Haddam, Connecticut.
I urge you, Senator, to go to your library and ask them...
What power do they have?
They don't have any power other than the fact that they do it. Ask them, send a 12-year-old in there and ask that 12-year-old to rent Natural Born Killers. I firmly believe he will walk out of that library with that movie. I think
Not in my town of East Haddam, Connecticut.
The librarians have said, and when we've had discussions with the ALA, and we've said, you don't stock.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Dad. You're talking about ALA. You're saying every library in the country.
I'm saying that...
And these are people made up of local people. I mean,
librarians are members of this professional organization. Just as I'm a member of the American Psychological Association, they are members of the American Library Association. Now, it's often interesting that the policies are set at the libraries, and if you ask the particular librarians what the policy is, some of them don't know the policy, but it is set that, in fact, those materials will not be restricted. And many times when parents have gone to complain at libraries about children accessing pornography, they've been told that those will be available and that the library will not restrict access for any reason.
Check it out. You want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to say, too, I've devoted an entire chapter in my book on this subject, but was also called as an expert witness in the Loudoun County Library case about 2 years ago. And one of the problems that libraries are having when the librarians, like you said, want to do the right thing to protect children, Loudoun did put filters on their library computers to not only protect children, but also to say we don't want adults downloading illegal pornography. And the problem is the threat of lawsuit. The ACLU filed suit against that library. The library lost and not only got stuck with their own $300,000 legal bill, but also was asked by the ACLU to cover their $500,000 legal bill. And because I was an expert witness in that testimony, you know, it was just phenomenal. I was deposed by 3 of the top ACLU attorneys in this case. So there's a threat of incredible intimidation, and this is something that's been going on for a number of years. The ALA's policies are very clear on this and have been very clear, not only that kids should have access to every type of pornography, but that librarians can't do anything about it, and that they shouldn't, that it is not their role. So what I have been encouraging parents to do is find out what the policies are in your library. If they are not implementing safety rules and software tools, either you go to the library with your child or don't let your child go to the library. It's as simple as that, and it's very unfortunate, but that's the current environment.
Yeah. Well, my view is basically local people, can have a tremendous influence on this, because so many of the libraries exist because of local support. I mean, we support them, but the federal government's contribution to libraries is rather small. I mean, they wouldn't survive on our largesse. They do because there's local efforts to sustain them and support them, either public funds or private funds, which sustain them and support them. And I appreciate the legal arguments, but it seems to be in certain areas, particularly like with movies and so forth, I think we have established and successfully defended legal actions where rating systems and, in fact, public theaters and who can get in and who cannot get in to watch certain programming. So we have been able to set some norms which are not been vulnerable to challenge, and it seems to me that would apply. I'm not claiming, again, a constitutional expert here, but it seems to me we ought to be able to do some of that. Anyway, we ought to come back, and I want to hear on their side of the equation ideas, because I don't want to, the idea that the ALA or librarians are a bunch of pedophile promoters out there is something I don't support. I mean,
Please go to their website and see the instructions, step-by-step instructions to disable every form of blocking software on the teen section of the ALA website.
Well, I'll look. I'll look.
You'll see that they're telling teens, here's how you get around what your parents have put on.
Okay. I wanted to, Mr. Ryan,